Amy to do the housekeeping, please.
Absolutely, Chair. May I remind everyone present that the meeting is being live streamed as well as recorded via the internet, and that this recording is archived for future viewing. Could all participants please mute themselves when not speaking in order to avoid any background noise or feedback when other participants are speaking. If a participant wishes to speak, can they please put their hand up or use the raise hand function in Teams? If a participant raises their hand via the function and is not subsequently invited to speak by the Vice Chair this evening, Councillor Neil Thomas, please could they turn their camera on to indicate or place a message in the chat function. When invited to address by the Vice Chair, please could all participants ensure that their microphone and camera is on to ensure that they can be seen and heard when actively participating. If this is not possible for any reason, please bring this to the attention of the Vice Chair or myself as the Democratic Services Officer when you address. Please ensure that all debate is raised verbally and not via the chat function for the sake of the recording. The chat function may be used to highlight any technical issues to myself or Councillor Thomas. If any participant has difficulty hearing or being heard when they are addressing the committee, then please could they let Councillor Thomas or myself know as soon as possible. Thank you, Vice Chair. That concludes the housekeeping.
Thank you, Amy. Agenda item 1 is apologies for absence.
Yes, Vice Chair, I do have a couple of apologies from the committee. Apologies have been received from the Chair of the committee, Councillor Charles. Also, apologies are received from Councillor Collins, Councillor Norman and Councillor Stallard. Also, I need to offer possible apologies for Councillor Buckley, who may be joining us late. And if obviously he doesn't join us, I'll be marking his apologies.
Thank you very much indeed. The Chair, myself and Democratic Services had a meeting last week to discuss the survey that was put out to everyone involved with the committee on timing of the committee. The response generally, there were a number of people who were very easy about the time. One or two who would have preferred a 6 o'clock start, but the majority, it felt, particularly of members, were supportive of remaining at 5 o'clock. So the Chair and I took the decision that that's what we will do. We'll remain for this committee at 5 o'clock on the basis of the survey. Are there any questions or any? I see no hands. Fine, we'll move on. Agenda item 2 then are the minutes of the meeting held on the 9th of October. Can the committee approve these? Can someone move and second the minutes?
Yeah.
Let's see.
Happy to second.
Emma's moved and Gareth is seconding. Thank you very much. Item 3, declarations of interest and the nature of such interests, including whipping declarations under the Code of Conduct. No, there are no declarations of interest. Right, we move into the meat of the meeting then, which is the reports of the Director of Social Services. Agenda item 4, Vale, Valleys and Cardiff Regional Adoption Collaborative Annual Report. Rachel, I think this is your...
Yes, thank you, Chair. So this is with Angela Harris and I. So the committee will be familiar, most of you, with Angela, who's our Regional Adoption Manager. Angela will take us through the report, the headlines and the highlights, and obviously look to provide as much of a Vale focus to the discussion as we can, and very, very open to questions afterwards. So thanks very much, Angela.
Thank you. Welcome, Angela.
Good evening. Thank you for obviously inviting me to present the report. This report actually follows a similar format to previous years. We are required on an annual basis to report to Scrutiny, and we've got other reporting mechanisms. We have to do a review of our quality of service every 6 months. And obviously we've got a significant reporting requirement to the National Adoption Service. I was looking back, this is actually BBC's, I think, 8th report. This is our 8th year of operation. So some members may be familiar with sort of previous presentations. I think so looking back at last year, obviously this report takes us up to the 31st of March this year. We are in the process of compiling a report for the first 2 quarters of activity for this year. I think sort of looking back overall, I mean, they were, in terms of the overall structure of the service, we've carried on delivering service in very much a similar way, really, through the 3 functional teams. Obviously, staff, as a result of the pandemic, have really continued to work on a hybrid basis, although there's a lot more face-to-face work and obviously meetings within the office where required. So in terms of, I suppose, the structure, in terms of the staffing, there was the managers were actually regraded within the service last year due to the increase in responsibilities and the way the service has developed over the years. Because we're now quite a large service, we've got 47 staff, which is a significant increase on the initial. In terms of governance, obviously last year we saw the establishment of a new joint committee. We have a joint committee that we report to every 6 months. So we had a new committee established in May of last year. The management board and operation group continued through that period to meet on a quarterly basis. And, you know, obviously the agendas for those meetings continue to be very wide-ranging. We've got a huge, you know, ever-developing agenda coming out to regional services from the National Adoption Service. So we have to consider those matters alongside, you know, running the business and dealing with, you know, the ever-increasing performance activity that we have to record. So the agendas for those meetings are quite full, and I think, you know, well supported by our regional partners. In terms of the sort of staffing and the structure, at the start of the year, there was a cost pressures exercise undertaken, and we were pleased to benefit from some additional posts within the service, 2.5 social care officers, which were very much needed, really, to support our adoption support service. So we saw the creation of those posts at the beginning of that year. And also agreement for us to retain some of our underspend from the previous year to actually enhance some of the adoption support service that we're providing, and also to provide some additional support for our non-agency work, which we have a significant waiting list for non-agency adoptions, step parent, private law adoptions. So we were able to use some of that money to address that backlog. I suppose towards the end of the year, from the autumn of last year, obviously our service then began to look at looking at how we were going to make some savings. Obviously, we started quite a lot of discussions around the budget. We established some meetings with the regional finance officers, and we had an additional meeting with the joint committee and the management board in January to actually finally agree what our savings would be, which at the moment are, for this year, are 3%. But I think, you know, our service alongside other services have actually, now that has been quite a significant part of our regional agenda, into actually looking at how we can best make those savings as a service. As a regional service, we're subject to an annual audit, and we were pleased to achieve substantial assurance from the audit for that period. There were some compliance matters in respect of the collaborative agreement, which have now been addressed by the revisions that we've made to the agreement this year. And other work around governance, obviously we've been working with our partners to update our information sharing protocol and our data sharing protocol, because those were put in place at the time we were set up in 2015, so they needed revision. So we've been working quite closely with partners to actually, and they've now been agreed. Yeah, I think the other part around staffing is that in 2019 we had the injection of money from Welsh Government into grant-funded posts, specialist posts, and we benefited within our within the central part of the region. Also, the regional teams benefited from those posts. So it's quite a significant undertaking in terms of monitoring those posts and actually monitoring their performance and making sure that those posts are filled. We have had some changes with post holders, but a lot of emphasis is put upon filling those posts as quickly as possible, because obviously we don't want to lose that significant amount of funding. So those are the sort of general sort of comments about the the service. As I said, there hasn't been a great deal of change, but I think obviously our service now, like all services, is having to look very closely at our spend and monitoring our budget quite closely, and looking at the impact that may have on our service delivery. In terms of the actual activities, I think we've split those within the our main activities of family finding, recruitment and assessment of adopters, and adoption support. In terms of family finding, I think we did last year see a decrease in referrals. We hadn't really experienced that in terms of children being referred for adoption, but we saw some decrease, although there was an increase towards the latter part of the year, which we're now seeing sort of the evidence of that, because obviously then that has an impact on the work that we carry forward. Quite a significant number of those referrals were withdrawn, 50% of those, which doesn't really reflect the work undertaken, but obviously is an indicator that alternative plans were made for those children. So we actually had 59 placement orders, which again was a decrease. Again, other areas of Wales had seen a decrease earlier than us. But yeah, so we began to see that sort of pattern. But at year end, we placed 65 children, which was in terms of the referrals and the amount of placement orders was a fairly healthy position in terms of actually those children being placed. And we also saw a reduction in those children waiting, which was a positive at year end, those that were waiting for placement. Perhaps another significant factor is that for the last couple of years, we've been quite successful in maintaining placement of children within the region. And again, over 75% of the children were actually placed within BBC and with our own adopters, which obviously is better for those children if we can keep them in the communities rather than being, so that's been quite a trend really. And during the year, we actually had one disruption of placement, which was the first really that we've had for 3 years. So that was, I mean, these things happen, but yeah, we had one disruption. Part of the investment is around life journey work. So again, our performance in terms of the provision of life journey work for children with a plan for adoption, I think we've seen the performance being maintained largely, although we've had some decrease in performance. There are 2 points where that's measured at the matching panel and second adoption review for children. And its second adoption review is the point that sometimes we see a dip in performance. So moving on to adopter activity, we've continued to pursue quite an active marketing campaign and activity. We obviously we put on some face-to-face events, which is again raising the profile. We use Facebook and Instagram regularly, and we did the council tax inserts in respect of 3 of our authorities, which again, helps us target those areas that where we get less inquiries really for prospective adopters. Having said that, our inquiries did see again, which is a pattern throughout Wales, quite a significant dip. I think it amounted to about 43% reduction, so we had 210 inquiries throughout the period. And again, that is probably the first time that we'd seen that dip as a region, because historically we'd always produced quite a significant number. Obviously we can look at the National Adoption Service have actually commissioned some national research. They have a marketing company called Cowshed, which works closely with the NAS. And obviously it's looking at some of the reasons why there's been a reduction. Obviously I think we can point to factors such as cost of living, etc. So we did see a dip, which then has obviously a knock-on effect with the numbers that we approved. So we approved 47 at year end. One initiative in terms of recruitment and assessment was NAS developed a scheme called Welsh Early Permanency, which enables a child to be placed on a fostering basis with a prospective adopter. So the adopter is approved as a foster carer and an adopter. And obviously with the aim that that child will remain in that adopter's carer's long-term care and hopefully go on to adoption. And the region has been very proactive in promoting WEP, and we actually had the first placement within the region. So we assessed, approved and linked the first WEP placement during that period. In terms of adoption support, I think I've probably said in previous years that obviously adoption support was, since the formation of NAS, the whole adoption support agenda expectations has just increased significantly. Obviously that's led to an improvement of support for adopters, but it does raise a lot of resourcing implications, both for our service and certainly for the local authorities who hold the budgets to approve therapeutic packages where they are required for children. Our adoption support referrals actually overall did stabilise during the period, but I think what we are finding is that even though the numbers have remained fairly stable, the complexity of some of those referrals has increased. So which has obviously raised issues around more costly interventions, etc. We've had a steady number of referrals in terms of access to birth records and intermediary services. So that is that's an area that it's a complex area of work, but it is one that's grown. And within the team, we've also tried. We did establish last year, obviously, during the pandemic, etc. We suspended our family fun days, but we did run 2 very successful days last year, which are very well attended during the summer and Christmas period, which are well attended by adoptive families. The team also, with the injection of the new social care officers, have actually looked at new ways of reaching out to families. So we run a very successful sports activity group for a very smallish group of young people, adopted young people, who obviously find interaction in sort of wider group activities more difficult. So that's been very successful. And also we've been running during term time a weekly hub where adoptive families can come together and share sort of common experiences. So that has been successful as well. We've developed very strong links with the MFIS service, which covers Cardiff and the Vale, and also the MAP service, which covers RCT and Merthyr. And obviously that is our our specialist service that we can take cases to. We can have consultations. We can obviously get their their recommendations and advice on particular cases. So that work has really strengthened and developed during the period. Our specialist posts, which are associated with the grant, the Birth Parent Advisor and the TESA, which has now been rebranded to call the Pathways, which these are national projects which regions obviously have to refer families to, and we've all got specialist workers, and those posts are really well used. I mean, there's definitely a need been identified, and that as a region we've used those services very well. Similarly with the Birth Parent Advisor, that is a part-time role, but the direct work that we've seen grow with birth parents, and that is going to be a growth area really, because there is now a lot more emphasis. Obviously we have to promote direct contact where appropriate. We have to, but those parents and that need to be supported with indirect contact and a range of things. So that is definitely an area that is under-resourced, but it's growing really. So I mean, the other appendices, obviously there's one about the panel activity, which gives you the sort of spread of workload and the activity. Again, some of the panel time has been, panel cases have been down because obviously the panel is the end product of the work that we undertake. But it is a sort of, still a significant area of activity because panels are scheduled every month. So it's a big undertaking really in terms of sustaining and maintaining those panels. I don't know what else you want me to say really. So overall, I think we're certainly, it wasn't I think we had a pleasing end of year result really when you look at our activity across the service. As I said, we have, there is an ever increasing national agenda, which Rachel will vouch for really, that, is a constant juggling really, because you're juggling the day-to-day delivery of service with the expectations that are coming out of, the National Adoption Service, which obviously has got its function, and it has served to certainly drive up performance and activity in respect to adoption, but then that causes its challenges as well on the ground when you're trying to deliver a service. Sorry, is that too negative, Rachel?
You're on mute, Chair. Chair, you're on mute.
I was thanking you, Angela. Yeah, I was on mute. There's some background noise going on in the house. I was thanking you, Angela, for your presentation and for the report, which is comprehensive. There's an awful lot of information within there that gives us a very clear idea of the kind of work you've been doing and the changes and the pressures that you're facing. I'll ask. I see that Councillor Cave has got a hand up and wants to come in, so I'll ask her, and then I'll ask you for respond afterwards, Rachel, if that's all right? Okay, Councillor Cave.
Yes, I just wanted to say thank you, Angela, for the report. I definitely think we've got a lot to be proud of. If we've only had one breakdown of adoption in 3 years, that's well, that is something to be really, really proud of. And I just really wanted to thank you for that, because it's obviously down to all your hard work and dedication, really. So it's a marvellous statistic, it really is. And I just wanted to highlight that. I just had a quick look through the report again to refresh my memory from when I looked at it earlier last week, and I just noticed that our average spend, I think it's on the appendices on page 3. Our average spend is quite significantly, nearly 100% higher than the other 3 authorities on therapeutic interventions post-adoption. And I do wonder if that is in some way the higher spend actually does pay dividends, in that we don't have many breakdowns in adoption, because obviously the post-adoption support that we give is just as vital as all the support we give beforehand, really. I just wondered if you wanted to quickly talk about that figure.
Yeah, I mean, I think, the figure is quite substantial. I think just to sort of clarify, those children have been adopted. So those are every child who is adopted has an adoption support plan, and part of that plan there may be particular needs identified that need to be met following adoption. So so all those children would be adopted. The disruption was a disruption of a placement of a child before that child is adopted. So we tend to talk about disruption pre-adoption, and then then later on, if it happens, unfortunately, it is a breakdown really of a adoptive home, as it were. But yeah, I think the figure that I think we're very conscious that the costs have gone up. It's something that we've been monitoring, the management board and our operational group have been monitoring, because I think what we're finding is, I mean, it's still a relatively small amount of children, but because the costs of those packages are going up significantly. But it's something we are monitoring, very closely. And it's one of the, I think perhaps I touched on it, that, I mean, one of the good things about NAS is that they've highlighted the need for adoption support services and packages sometimes, but for some young, children who've been adopted and families. But it can cause conflicts in terms of being able to resource those packages and that level of support at a local level. I don't know if that explains sort of what's happening behind us, but I think we're very conscious that the veil figure is quite high, and it's something that we are closely monitoring, really.
Yes, thank you for that, and thank you for that explanation. Yes, I can see the difference between the two, but I do think that what we do post adoption, once a child has been adopted, is just as important.
Yeah.
That there
very
is
much so.
Yeah, it's continuity there for the adopters and the child or children being adopted. So it's a figure to keep an eye on. I don't think it necessarily means a bad thing.
No. Well, no. I mean, if it's obviously we all acknowledge that the children who've been adopted can come with a range of difficulties, and so I think if that intervention has benefited them, and making sure that they maintain within their adoptive homes, then yes, those are good things, really. But sometimes they come with a price, really, that needs to be met somewhere.
Thank you, Angela. Rachel, you wanted to come in on that?
Yeah, it's this is something we're very aware of. Councillor Cave and others are doing some analysis to understand it more. It does look disproportionate. We need to understand whether that disproportionate spend, as you might describe it, is right and proper. For one, is it sustainable? For two, are we providing the right level of service to all of the children that need it? I mean, 22 children averaging just under £5,000 each, and two much larger authorities in our region than us, and that level of spend is something that we need to understand much more. So we are pulling that data apart in order to get to a clearer understanding, and that isn't to kind of say we don't want to support, or we don't think we should support post-adoption. Far from it, but we do need to understand why our spend is different to partners across the region, and they need to understand it too. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
From their own perspectives.
Yeah, and as I said, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad thing, but we do need to know.
No.
We do need to know a little bit more about that, don't we? So,
Thank you.
I'm sure at some other stage that will come back to us and we'll know a bit more about that.
Yeah, I was going to say, are we going to see this being unpacked maybe in a future report?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a current discussion, Councillor Thomas. So obviously, what we're looking at it now, aren't we? Obviously looking back, but also looking forward. So in the current year, so I would very much expect to see some further analysis in the next report. Although from your perspective, that will be in a year's time, looking back on 6 months, 18 months earlier, won't it? So
absolutely.
If it was something that interested you, we could provide some information outside of scrutiny if that would assist. So.
I think so. I think a lot of the committee would appreciate seeing that when it's available. But certainly in the course of things, it needs to come as part of the a report in the future for public consumption. So that people who are interested will be able to see what's going on. If that's okay with both of you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. You're talking about life story work. It's something that I'm aware of within life story books and things that have been available certainly in the past, is the lack of early photographs, and considering that most photographs now are taking on digital devices and are not therefore printed out, these things are becoming more scarce for these children. And I was just wondering what efforts are being made to remedy that within so there's hard photographs, hard copy within the sort of life story books that the kids have. Rachel, you want to respond? You're muted.
I'm mute.
The life journey materials that we produce now would be unrecognisable in terms of what others may have seen previously. We're lucky enough to have 1.5 life journey workers in the Vale, and there is a proportionate number across each local authority in the region. We prioritise grant funding from the National Adoption Service for life journey work, exactly because it was a priority for us. And honestly, those two individuals, alongside social workers, are doing some amazing things. So the materials, it's not just a book. There are a number of things that go into that. Yes, we are in a digital age. We work very hard to make sure that we can source as much information as well as photographs as we possibly can, but put that into books and materials in a really creative way in order to explain to a child, perhaps now, but certainly as they grow, in terms of their own journey and their own experiences. But it is unrecognisable. And for example, we place such a priority on on Life Journey work being present, that agency decision makers, so myself and the other 3 heads of service across the region, will not agree a match for a child unless we can see that those Life Journey materials have been completed. And we would expect to see a draft later life letter, so a very detailed letter around the events for this particular child, alongside that Life Journey book. So we just won't agree a match. And what happens when you apply that expectation, of course, is that you get that because we want to and need to match children. So everybody buys into that approach. So unrecognisable. It would be lovely actually to be able to show you some, because they are spectacular.
Excellent. That's gratifying to say the least. Right, members of the committee, are there any other questions? Any other queries? Any comments? I see no hands. In that case, we have 2 recommendations before us on this. The first is to enable committee to exercise scrutiny and this key function. The committee reviews the report and the work of the collaborative undertaken to date, and 2, that the committee continues to receive annual reports in line with the requirements of the legal agreement, which underpins the collaborative. Is everyone happy with that? Does anyone want to modify it? Again, I see no hands. I take that as assent. And thank you very much, both of you. Thank you, Angela.
Thank
nice
you.
to see you again.
Thanks very much. Yes, thank you. Bye.
Chair, if I may, if I take you as moving those recommendations, could I have a seconder from the committee, please?
Happy to second.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Councillor Hall.
Thank you.
It's moved and
Bye.
seconded. No dissent. Thank you very much indeed.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Moving on then, we have agenda item 5, which is the telecare services update. I think, Jason, that's your baby.
Yeah, thank you,
Andrew, as well.
Yeah, I'm going to emulate Rachel before me and just introduce the report around telecare. It's an annual update report. I had the pleasure of watching this one from another county a year ago, and it was part of an inspiration for me to want to come and work in the Vale. So no pressure for Andy, who's going to take us through the update. But it was an example of where the Vale was leading across Wales. So this is an update report on the progress made since that point. But I'm going to hand over to Andy and I'll stay around for questions and support.
Thank you, Jason. Hello, Andy.
Thank you, Jason. Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, so and thanks also to the committee for your ongoing interest and support, of course, of the telecare service in the Vale. I'm not sure we can match the adoption service 8 consecutive years of coming to committee, but it's certainly been 5 or 6 now. So we're really grateful for that, and I know the team is grateful of the support as well. So I'll take you through the I'm going to steal Rachel's words. I'm going to take you through the highlights and the headlines of the report. So last year, you'll remember that we were very, very early days in transitioning to using the digital telecare platform, the alarm receiving centre, which is the computer database that holds all the information of all of our telecare customers, so that when an alert happens in somebody's home, the operator in our 24-hour call centre knows exactly who's fallen, their emergency contacts. So we've had that now in place since August 2022. We were the first adopter of a digital platform in Wales, and we felt that we needed to move over in preparation for the digital switchover in 2025. It's been a great success. There's been teething issues, and there remain teething issues, which I might get onto later. But it has been a success. So we are confident that we're prepared for the switchover, and it's also given us opportunity for a wider range of digital devices and sensors in people's homes that we're only really scratching the surface of. So it's a really exciting time in the world of telecare and telehealth. We've also been now a year with our falls response service. So this was very, very early days when we came last time. I think probably members will remember me saying that within the first month we had 30 responses in October last year. We're on average now responding to about 120 people who fall or require the response of our falls response service, and we think that's been really helpful, both to people and families in the community, but also to our partners across the health board as well. I'll give you some stats now, if that's okay. So and our average response time, it changes all the time, but at the moment, as we speak, it is 28 minutes and 32 seconds, and we think that we've avoided quite significant costs to the health board, and we've used nationally recognised calculations that take into account the cost of an ambulance, the cost of a short stay in hospital should somebody have fallen and be taken into hospital by the ambulance. We think, using those calculations, that all this year we've saved £725,862 to the UHB, and we're thinking that next year that will you're using the same calculations will be around £1 million if we continue to grow the service, which we certainly are ambitious to do so. We're also, we don't just pick people up and make them safe and leave them. We also support that person to engage in aftercare. So we have really good links with the Falls team within the health board, and we're sharing information so that people can then have follow up with a physiotherapist, with an occupational therapist, so that people can well, hopefully avoid further falls into the future. So that link has been really important to us, and is just growing, and we're providing more useful information for the Falls team. So that's an area that has been a real benefit of the Falls service. The other major change that we've had this year is that we've redesigned, restructured the product offer. We've redesigned how people pay for and engage with telecare. So we've tried to simplify it and kind of bring it into, hopefully, the 21st century. So we offer our service around an essential base package, and then bronze, silver, and gold packages as well. And we feel that that's much more understandable for our customers and importantly, potential new customers. So it's been a busy all year, and I have to say the team have responded to the changes in the team. They've been calling for these changes for a long time, and they've really responded and kind of taken them on board. So that's been great. Despite, actually, we've had some sickness in the team as well, but they've been really good at taking on the new ways of working, and we've attracted new customers. We're roughly now up to about 2,500 customers, but it changes every day. So another area that we've been really focusing on this year, and you might remember we discussed this last time, is the transition of our hardwired, old-fashioned telecare units in some of our council housing schemes. So we're nearly completed that transition now, and converting the old hardwired schemes that kind of pretty much came with the property and the cost of that came with the rent. Now it's a much more person-centred and individual approach, so people can have the telecare that they need and want, or not, as the case may be. So that's something that we've taken a lot of resource to make that transition, but it's something that we felt was really important to do. Also, plans for the next few years. You'll probably see on the report there, I think we listed about 15, 16 different items, so I won't go through them all, I promise. But I just want to kind of pick the big ones, really. we're really keen, and Lance will laugh when I say this. We're really keen to improve the telecare website and an online application form, so that we're able to make the service as accessible as possible, and really then promote our brand, our telecare brand. We're working towards being an accredited provider of telecare with the TSA. Now that's a pretty high level of challenge for us. So it's not something that we can. It's certainly not a rubber stamp, and it's a real challenge for us. But yeah, we're working towards that, and the digital platform is a step in that direction. We're continually testing new devices so that we can support people with a greater range of needs in the community, and we're in the early stages of making links with our health colleagues to provide a range of health-based tech in people's homes that can monitor people's well-being, and that information then can come back to the health professional as needed. So early days, but all the digital platform and the digital equipment that we have in people's homes allow us to do that, and potentially even start utilizing more universal digital devices like we've all got in our homes, like Alexa and things like that. So we can start thinking about integrating all of those. They are not without challenge because of data protection, and you'll understand. But it's just opportunities that we're really keen to explore. I did say that as we were the first adopter of a digital platform, we were we were really pleased to be the first council in Wales to move to a digital platform. But of course, in a way, we've been a bit of a guinea pig as well. So while I think it's something that we had to and really wanted to do, and we are finding that perhaps the infrastructure around the digital telecare is catching up as well. And what we have noticed, you might have been made aware that we've had 3 very short outages within our telecare, just for a short period of time, and that's something that we're working with our partners to avoid in the future. So yeah, it's really positive. What we've been through in the last year is really positive. But we just need to be realistic that it's it's a journey that we're on here in this kind of brave new world of digital telecare. But it's something that we're embracing. So
Thank you for that,
any
Andy.
questions?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that, Andy. Again, an excellent presentation and a very comprehensive report. Yeah, I'm like Jason. I'm proud to be in a council that are leading the way on this. But it's much needed and much noted. Before we move on, I was going to ask for councillors, members of the committee. Julie, you have your hand up first. Julie Wilson.
Hi, very interesting, thorough, and very good report. I work in a care home, and
You just muted yourself, Julie.
one of our previous residents came to us because she'd had a small fall and was too frightened to go upstairs, so she came to us. So I think it's not just the actual falls; it's a fear of a fall that makes people leave their own homes. So anything that stops, keeps people in their own homes for as long as possible, any support can only be a good thing, because she'd been marvellous, been looking after herself and everything, but just this little slip on the stairs, she didn't even hurt herself, it was just the fear. So she sat on the bottom step, so she came to us because of that. But anything that keeps people in their own homes is wonderful, and thank you for all your good work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Any other members of the committee want to raise a point, ask a question? No, I've got a couple. You talked about the financial savings to the NHS and so on, and $750,000 isn't to be sniffed at. But of course, it's not just that. It's as Julie touched on. It's also the social and human costs that are there, which are less quantifiable, but are perhaps even more significant than the financial costs. And yes, you're to be congratulated on that. In your presentation, you talked about 120 falls response. You didn't give us a period of time. You said the first one was 30 in a month. I'm just wondering, it's 120 in how long?
Yeah, in a month. So on average now we're having about 120 a month. So I've got the figures in front of me actually. Hang on. So yeah, last month in September it was 130. In August it was 117. July 148. So they're the kind of numbers that we're responding to every month now.
Yeah, and we can expect more within winter because people are indoors more, and
yeah, and as we get more customers.
Absolutely. Okay. I mean, again, congratulations on that. The other question I did have, and I did flag it up at the agenda conference, was black spots in the Vale. Digital is reliant on Wi-Fi, and I'm just wondering how we're managing with that and what we're doing to remedy problems.
Yes. So there's two things. So first of all, the devices that we've chosen to go in people's homes have 2 SIM cards. So that creates a greater resilience around connecting with the network. However, there are areas in the Vale where it is more problematic. Now, I can't say to you it's this postcode or that postcode because it's so much more specific than that. It might be that one part of the street has good connectivity, and just over the road, because the way the hills are and where the mast is, the other part doesn't. So there are areas where we can't get connectivity. However, we've made our providers aware of this, and I imagine other authorities have done the same, and they're developing their device so it's got an Ethernet connection alongside, so that will again improve the connectivity. But it's small numbers, but where it is a problem, it's a problem, and it's something that is a digital network issue rather than a telecare issue.
Yeah. I did want to raise it because it's about inclusivity and Okay, thank you for that. I have nothing else myself, and I see no hands. Jason, did you want to come in and say anything at the end here?
Just one bit that Andy had mentioned. He recognised that we'd had some outages. Just wanted to assure the committee that if somebody presses an alarm during an outage, the moment that we reconnect, that alarm comes through. So it's a delay rather than a no service. So just that little bit of reassurance on that one. I'm really proud of the team and their ambitions. I think this telecare and technology enabled care is something really important to our future. The team have really embraced it, as Andy said. We challenged them and they've responded brilliantly. So the next steps, as Andy's outlined, is quite ambitious, as to continue that growth. And this is part of our prevention strategy. As the councillor said, we want people entering care system too early because they're afraid. And for that lady who had a near fall, we will now be able to connect her into that preventative services via physiotherapy, OT, and our MBT. So that connection with the health board and with VCRS is really valuable. And it just shows that by working together, we can make a real difference. And I have to applaud St. John's for their response service they provide. It's fantastic. It's a really good partnership between the local authority and St. John's.
I would support that, and saying publicly saying thanks and acknowledging St. John's contribution to this. Are we talking to third sector people as well to picking their brains. I mean, I'm thinking like we've had Innovate, who are in Cardiff, present to this committee in the past, who are using this kind of technology in quite leading ways. I'm wondering whether we're collaborating and brain picking, stealing.
Yeah. We also work with Innovate, as you are probably aware. They primarily work with people with learning disabilities, but we've got some really innovative programs from Innovate as well. So that may be that when we come next year, we can expand it wider than Telecare about our proactive technology offer and make it a broader presentation for you. But Innovate are really exciting as a partner, and some really, as their name says, really innovative ways of working with people, especially in supported living, to give people some more independence without a carer having eyes on them every moment or every day, which can be quite intrusive. People regaining quite a lot of freedom and independence, which is really valuable, but in a safe way with risks that are, calculated and shared. So yeah, they're a very good partner.
Excellent. Thank you very much indeed. In that case, and I see no other hands and see no other comments, we have again 3 recommendations this time. The Scrutiny Committee consider the work and future developments of the Telecare service, that Scrutiny Committee receives annual updates on the work of the Telecare service, and thirdly, that the Scrutiny Committee considers the changes and advances that are planned for the service and provides any comments to officers to inform future developments. I'm happy to move those 3 recommendations if I have a seconder.
Happy to second.
Thank you, Emma.
If I may, Chair, sorry, just to jump in. Obviously, the comments that you were just speaking to Jason about then, in terms of Jason's suggestion about expanding the next version of the report that you have, would the committee be minded on that second recommendation to just add to the end of that, so that it would be that the committee receives annual updates on the work of the Telecare service and other partnership working?
Absolutely.
Would that be appropriate?
Absolutely, is from my point of view. I mean, I see Jason and Andrew nodding their heads, so yes, there's no problem in that.
And obviously thank you, Councillor Goodjohn. I'll take that as you seconding the amendment. Thank you. And obviously for the third recommendation, you've obviously had committee discussion, but there weren't any formal comments that you wanted to pass on formally in the recommendation that I've picked up on. So your third recommendation would be that the changes and advances planned for the service as set out in paragraph 2.3 of the report be noted. Is that happy, or are the committee happy with that?
Pull down to 2.3.
Yeah, so paragraph 2.3 was the
2-year plan.
The 12, the 2-year plan and the 12 projects that Andrew related to in his presentation. So that's obviously, that third recommendation is referring to the future work of the service. So I just wanted to specify that and just make the point that we're not actually putting any formal comments in the recommendation, but we've obviously had our discussion this evening.
Yeah, I mean, the comments within the discussion, I think, are clear that we are proud of the Telecare service that we're offering. We urge them to keep surfing ahead of the field, and keep leading the way on this, because personally, as I said earlier, and as Jason indicated, I'm very proud of what we're doing in this area. And the Vale can recognise this as a huge success story. But otherwise, all as is, please, Amy.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're most welcome. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Jason. I think that's the end of that item. And in fact, I have no other items which are urgent. I have nothing under part 2. So thank you, everybody, for attending this afternoon, and have a pleasant evening.
Thank you, Chair.